young ladies allowed their egos to get in the way and were kind of...
If you ever suspected that there was more to Boyz II, Men's Wanya Morris relationship with Brandy Norwood, you guessed right. Over the years, there have only been curious speculations about their underage relationship. However, recently, a 2019 appearance of Andina Howard on TV One's Unsung has resurfaced, and it's become a hot topic once again. If you missed the gist, stick around, because we are about to unravel the whole story. Now, let's get into it. Before the fame, the hits, and the drama, there was just Brandy, a young girl with big dreams. On February 11th, 1979, in Macomb, Mississippi, Brandy Rayana Norwood was born into a Christian home that embraced music, so it was no surprise that she was immersed in music. Her mother, Sonia, is related to singer Bo Diddley, and rapper Daz Daliger is Brandy's cousin. Snoop Dogg even claimed to be her cousin, though Brandy couldn't clarify the claims, so it was clear that Brandy was no stranger to music. It was there at every corner she turned. My mom and my dad always told me I had something. My dad always told me never look to the left or to the left. Just stay low and keep it moving. And what he meant by stay low was keep moving and pay attention to you and don't worry about anyone else because no one else can't be you. So I kept that in my head. Brandy joined the church choir at an early age, where she honed her vocal skills and developed a passion for singing. As early as age 2, she had already performed her first gospel solo. In 1983, the Norwoods moved to Los Angeles, and it wasn't long before her talent caught the attention of music industry professionals. From then on, it was drama-filled for young Brandy. In Los Angeles, Brandy attended the Hollywood High Performing Arts Center. Around that time, her passion for music was lighting up, and she became a huge fan of singer Whitney Houston at age 7. In fact, she idolized her and has called her the biggest influence on her in music.
But no other man's gonna do.
Fortunately, she got to meet her idol way earlier than she would have dreamt of. During the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award, which Houston hosted, Brandy met Houston. It must have felt like a blessing. Although she will have more miraculous moments like meeting Wanya Morris, someone she had also long adored. Meanwhile, while young Brandy was on fire for music, her teachers weren't sold on her. According to her, she noticed they weren't sending her for auditions like the other kids. When she asked, they said she just wasn't pretty enough, so she had a tough time convincing her teachers to send her on auditions. But no one was going to kill the drive in her. By age 11, she was already going to talent shows and had become a part of a youth singing group that performed at functions. She soon signed up with Teaspoon Productions, headed by Chris Stokes, and became a backing vocalist for the R&B boy band Immature. This led to the production of a demo tape. Following that, her parents, who were in full support of her passion, organized a contract with Atlantic Recording Corporation, while negotiations with East West Records were still underway. Quickly, Brandy's musical dreams were beginning to take flight. Her mom quit her job to become Brandy's manager, while Brandy dropped out of Hollywood High and was homeschooled. Brandy's career and life as a whole took a pivotal turn when she met Wanya Morris. She was about 15 years while he was 21, almost 6 years apart. They started out as friends, and as Wanya puts it, she was his protege as he was more of a guide, advising her as a young child in the industry. But behind the mentor image we were shown looking outside in, there was way more to it. And while Brandy wasn't so open about their relationship, she has finally spilt the tea, revealing the darker story behind her relationship with Wanya. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but before we do, let's talk some more about Brandy. Around the time she met Wanya, Brandy was working on her debut album. In 1994, she dropped her self-titled debut album, Brandy. Right out the gate, hits like I Wanna Be Down and Baby had us all in a chokehold. The album sold over 6 million copies worldwide. Definitely not bad for a teenager. Critics have described the songs as childish, but of course that's what Brandy wanted and it resonated with her audience. But wait, that was just the start of her fame. Fast forward to 1998, and Brandy threw in yet another, Never Say Never. This album had a vibe of its own, with songs like Almost Doesn't Count and Have You Ever.
And everybody knows, almost doesn't count.
The duet, The Boy Is Mine with Monica, was particularly iconic. This song wasn't just a hit, it was a pop culture moment. It spent 13 weeks and peaked at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, one of the longest running duets at the top spot. And let's not forget, Never Say Never, another hit, went on to sell over 16 million copies worldwide. Brandy was unstoppable. She had proven she wasn't a one-hit success, but she was there to stay in the industry and was going nowhere anytime soon. By 2002, Brandy released yet another album. This one was titled Full Moon. This was where we really saw Brandy's vocal game level up. Full Moon produced hits like What About Us, and of course the title track, Full Moon, which made waves on the charts.
Get it crackin' if you like, must be a full moon. It's that you get. What about us?
But she wasn't done. In 2004, Brandy dropped Aphrodisiac, another solid album with Timbaland at the helm. Tracks like Talk About Our Love had us grooving, and the album cemented Brandy's status as one of R&B's most influential voices. Although it didn't get the commercial success of Never Say Never, it was still a fan favorite and showcased Brandy's evolution. Brandy wasn't only making waves in the music industry, she was also finding significant success as an actress. The songstress had first starred in Thea, a short-lived show. This, however, opened doors to her next role in her own show, Moshe.
Morning, everybody.
Hey, Mo, what's happening?
Sorry I overslept. I'll scramble you some eggs in a sec.
The UPN-produced sitcom starred characters like Cheryl Lee Ralph and William Allen Young. The show became the most watched show and even had a spin-off called The Parkers. Brandy will also star alongside Whitney Houston in the Cinderella movie, where she became the first Black Cinderella. The 1997 production was groundbreaking, especially for young Black girls who got to see themselves represented in a fairy tale.
I don't want to believe what sensible people say. And because these daft and dewy-eyed dopes keep building up impossible hopes impossible.
This was definitely Brandy's fairy tale come true, starring with her idol. It was unbelievable. I grew up watching Whitney. To meet her and to work with her was just like a dream come true. Like, to look at her and to talk to her and realize that she was a real person was so surreal to me. Brandy said, still talking about the experience, she said, that was really a moment for me. To be the first African-American princess for one, and to be chosen by my idol, my mentor, someone that means everything to me and still does. To be part of a multicultural cast, and to work with legends like Whoopi Goldberg, Bernadette Peters. It was a fairy tale. I was really living the dream. Brandy's impact was bigger than just music. It was culture. With undeniable success so early in life, winning Grammy Awards and her songs getting platinum certification, it seemed like Brandy was hitting all the right notes in life. She even had her own Barbie doll. However, this was far from the truth. Brandy's love life was quite a mess. Brandy was young and at the peak of her career when she crossed paths with Wanya Morris from Boyz II Men. Their story began in the mid-90s when Brandy was a huge fan of Boyz II Men, particularly Wanya. For Brandy, meeting Wanya was more than just a dream come true. It was the start of something deep. Boyz II Men, at this point, was one of the biggest R&B groups in the world, and Wanya Morris, the smooth-voiced lead singer, was the heartthrob of the group. Brandy admired him both as an artist and as a person, and the two eventually got close. They became fond of each other, but it wasn't until they spent significant time together during the Boyz II Men national tour that the platonic relationship grew into romance. Their relationship began quietly, though there were whispers in the industry about their romance. Wanya was the first person Brandy had ever really fallen for, and she was head over heels. During a 2012 episode of Behind the Music, Brandy said, I'm just in love with somebody, but can't tell them. Too young to tell him. I can't really tell my mom because she'll have a heart attack as a mother and manager. What will I do? She finally found the guts to spill. One day, I got the courage to tell Wanya how I felt. I just told him that I loved him and thanked him for making me feel the way I feel because I had never felt that way before. He was just like, wow. The relationship took a transition and we became a couple. I was on a high. It was love. It was real love. While we can't say if it was real love, Brandy was tripping big time. Imagine being 16, in love for the first time, and not just with any guy, but with someone you idolize. That was a lot. Fortunately, Wanya reciprocated her feelings, and they quickly became an item. They kept their relationship hushed, although there were speculations that drew mixed reactions. Their relationship quickly became intense, and for Brandy, it was everything. But as we all know, first love rarely lasts forever, in just a month to Brandy's 19th birthday. Now, the reason behind their breakup is the interesting part. It had just been about 2 years together, and Wanya Morris disclosed that he was no longer in love with her. He fell in love with someone else. The worst feeling is to be in love all by yourself. That feels fucked up, honestly, Brandy said. It does, and that's the only way I can really put it. It felt like somebody had completely taken my heart out of my body and just crushed it. The Boyz Mito. Men Crooner didn't just fall out of love. He fell out of love and into love with someone else. Andina Howard.
But as Andina began working on her second album, she found other ways to get into trouble, thanks to a liaison with Wanya of Boyz II Men.
You may not know Andina so well, especially if you're not a fan of the 1900s songs. Andina Howard was the image of sexual empowerment for women. She was all about flipping the rules as a woman. She stood for sexual liberality and made the rules. Her debut album, Do You Wanna Ride?, tells a lot. Her single Freak Like Me was a major hit. Then she began working on her second studio album, Welcome to Fantasy Island. And that's when she met Wanya, and the two hit it off. To know why finding out who Wanya was leaving her for must have stung more than it should, you would need to look at her relationship with Andina. Andina and Brandy were under the same label, Atlantic Recording Corporation. Andina was as old as Wanya, so she may have not been close to Brandy, but as a senior in the record label, she was sought of a mentor to her. But here was Andina, stealing Brandy's man. This allegedly sparked a feud between Brandy and Howard. This period was especially tough for Brandy. I wasn't with the person that I wanted to be with, so I was with this person when I fell asleep. And so, I was addicted to being asleep, and that was just not a healthy place for me, Brandy noted. That was a scary time, and I had to face a lot of things about myself that I never thought I could. For Andina though, she didn't feel bad in any way. She refuses to back down. The love triangle wasn't any big secret. Soon, label executive Sylvia Rohn heard about it and told Andina to focus on her music and leave Wanya. Radio gossip queen Wendy Williams caught wind of Howard about her alleged relationship, and she said some choice words about Rohn and Brandy, and that was it. The music industry can be unforgiving, and her involvement in the breakup left her on the wrong side of public opinion. And with Howard refusing to accept Rohn's decision, it was a power clash. And when you don't have the upper hand, you will get crushed.
You know, you got two queens in one castle. The one who writes the check is gonna win.
As a result, the release date for Andina's album was delayed indefinitely.
So, the release date for her second album was postponed, and eventually, the album was shelved. In 2019, Andina spoke out about her feud with Brandy on Unsung by T-Bone.
Ladies allowed their egos to get in the way and were kind of going through it about a guy.
And that conflict caught the attention of Andina's and Brandy's label exec, Sylvia Rohn.
There probably was an exchange of words for Andina not to focus on.
Well, this said ego ended Andina's career. I said something very inappropriate about the head of the label, and she pulled up the emergency brake and shut everything down.
But don't be a boss to the boss that makes your records. Or pay you to make your record.
Andina, however, made several attempts to come back to the music scene, starting with her third album, Second Coming, but performed woefully. Eventually, Welcome to Fantasy Island was released in 2022 after Rhino Records acquired the rights to it. Looking back at Brandy's duet with Monica, The Boy Is Mine, it's convincing that the song was about her love triangle with Andina.
Reasons why I walked away, and then of course being blackballed, that was another reason. So I was, one minute I was there, the next minute I was gone, But
we won't be discussing the love triangle today. What has sparked the most concern when it comes to Brandy's relationship with Wanya? It's the age gap. Wanya was about 6 years older than Brandy when they met, and while he claimed they didn't start dating till she was much older, there's a lot to this story. Where do we start? In Brandy Norwood's appearance on an episode of Behind the Music, she finally lets it all out, and it's juicy. Brandy had fallen in love with Wanya much earlier, but she was scared to tell him because she was, of course, too young. She eventually told him sometime later, and their love grew. Brandy also told her mom, who wasn't in support. Her mom, Sonia, told her she didn't know what love was. But Brandy knew what she felt, and it tasted like love, so she went ahead anyway. The love quickly turned sour, and Brandy was left to leak her wound alone. Brandy's heartache didn't just stay behind closed doors. Around the same time, she had to keep up her public appearances, smile for the cameras, and most importantly, keep filming her popular TV show, Moshe. Behind the scenes, she was falling apart, but on screen, she had to play a happy-go-lucky teenager. Filming Moshe during this painful time was anything but easy. Brandy later opened up about the immense pressure she felt. She was still so young, yet she had to face heartbreak in the throes of the spotlight at the same time. The pressure to maintain her image took a toll on her mental health. Brandy stopped eating much, and her weight went downhill, falling to 105 pounds. She said, "I was trying to be thin because the camera adds 10 pounds. I was abusing my body. It was destroying me, but I looked great, and that's what mattered." The stress led to severe anxiety and depression, and one day, Brandy broke down on set. I broke down. I started to feel very bad on the set one day. My character, Moshe, was being very judgmental of one of her friends, and I was like, this character has got to go. I couldn't take it anymore. She was too perfect. So I pulled a diva move and left the set, something I'd never done before. She said, "I remember turning off the clock when I got in the car and saying, I don't want to be on the world's time. I want to be on my own." The next day, she landed in the hospital, diagnosed with exhaustion and dehydration. However, after 3 days, she was back soon, and she channeled the heartbreak into her music. My heart was just on blast. I've never been this creative in terms of music, just with writing and producing. It just seemed like I was going into a different part of myself, discovering things about myself I didn't really hone in on before. Brandy noted. But it wasn't a smooth ride. Brandy was still working with Boyz on the song, Broken Hearted, and this added fuel to the fire.
Deep down, you can feel it, you can't help it, baby.
In an interview on the Morning Hustle podcast, she described it as an awful experience, saying she felt disrespected. It was one she wouldn't forget, and for the wrong reasons. Of course, being with the man who cheated on you can't feel the same way. While Brandy was hit hard by the breakup, Wanya was, of course, undisturbed and had moved on, sharing his side of the story years later. On an Instagram Live, a fan asked about his relationship with Brandy, and Wanya decided it was high time he told how it went down. He said, "Brandy and I were friends in the beginning. Her mother reached out to me, as well as my manager reached out to Brandy because Brandy was a big fan of mine. I was like, well, wow, that's amazing, because this young lady was pretty cool. I was young at the time. I wasn't 30 nothing. Don't get it twisted." He went on to point out that he was more like her guide in the industry, and even helped her clinch an acting role. So what happened is, she became kind of like my little protege. I'm actually the one who introduced her to Vida Spears and Ralph Farquhar. They came to us to actually do a TV show on the UPN network, and I said, well, you know, Brandy's down the hallway, and she was on the Thea show. Okay, cool. Introduced her to that. The show came to fruition. My mom and I wrote the theme song to the Brandy show, so Brandy and I were really, really close. They were really close then. Once she turned of age, we had been hanging around each other so much that there came to be some sort of connection, an intimate connection. We actually fell in love. Now, we were young. That's what happens. You're young and you fall in love, especially when you have the ability to be around somebody a lot. You begin to know things about them, and they know things about you. Now, when you're young, you make decisions based on your youth. You don't make moral decisions that put you in a position where you know that this is what's going to be for the rest of your life. You're learning through everything. And Brandy and I learned through a lot. Wanya also revealed how he and Brandy's mom had made it possible for Brandy and Kobe Bryant to go on a date. Now, this part of the story is interesting because while we all know that Brandy accompanied Bryant to his prom night, everyone was left wondering if there was a bit of romance between both parties. With Wanya's information, it's obvious they were still dating at that time, and so the move was most likely for PR. Kobe Bryant was also at a pivotal moment in his career. He was about to embark on his legendary basketball career, and Brandy was already a superstar. With all eyes on Bryant, being with him would help Brandy gain more public eyes. After claiming that all he said was true, he concluded his answer by saying, "Whoever is there, saying all kinds of crazy things like they know, regardless of anything, my age, her mother and father was a part of our relationship. They allowed me to guide Brandy and help her through her career. They understood that we had grown close, and that's what it was. Relax on what you think, because I know, because I lived it, and so did Brandy." Now, it may be alarming to know that Brandy's parents were cool with her relationship. However, while her mom had set them up to meet, and from details gathered from Brandy, her mom was always business and didn't care much about her personal life. She didn't seem to be in support of this decision. This was a major reason behind their strained relationship. On the Oprah show, Brandy and her mom have a heart-to-heart conversation, and Sonia tells her, a parent isn't built to listen with her whole body and mind when she's talking about her 15-year-old daughter going out with a 20-year-old man. Whether she was a celebrity or not, I had the same fear all mothers do, that my daughter would get caught in a situation where a baby is making a baby. She also said most times Brandy felt she was more of a manager than a mom. In the end though, she let Brandy have her way after they fought. It's safe to say Sonia did her best as a mother to stop the relationship. Yet, there are allegations that Sonia sold her daughter out for fame, and even more accusations of Brandy getting pregnant for Wanya, but those are all allegations. Wanya was more of the devil in this love story. Even years later, after becoming a parent, he remains unapologetic. In a video on The Breakfast Club that has now been taken down, Wanya was asked about his then relationship with Brandy. His response was that they didn't do the thing until she came of age. So while he admits to dating her while she was still a minor, he waited till she came of age before they did the thing. Mind you, by come of age, he means when she turned 16. This may not go down well with everyone. While 16 is sometimes seen as adulthood, most countries and jurisdictions still hold on to age 18. He also spilled that they did it in a state where it wasn't legal. He also tries to downplay the age difference by saying it wasn't like he was 30-something. He was also young. So there's no debate that this is quite a gray area. Considering the age gap, their relationship wasn't quite appropriate. Well, that's not the worst part of his talk. Wanya went on to say that she was old enough to get it. Again, not everyone will agree to this, and it still brings to question his character. Not to mention how he shattered her heart, yet claiming they both grew out of the love, when in fact he was the only person who did so. Currently, Wanya Morris has 8 children with different women, and we are glad that Brandy didn't get into that messy situation. However, that wouldn't be the last time Brandy found herself in the wrong relationship. Soon after Morris, she dated Mace, but it barely landed anywhere, as she claimed the relationship wasn't serious on both ends. Then she started dating someone out of the industry who she said was toxic for her and was very controlling. Still talking to Oprah Winfrey, she said, "He called me a bitch 13 times in one day. I counted. I thought, how could you have the audacity to call me when you're not doing a dang thing, not even grocery shopping? You gotta pay the cost if you're gonna be the boss." But I was as sweet as pie with him and walked on eggshells so I wouldn't upset him. Later, Brandy met Robert Smith, Big Bird, which became one of the biggest scandals of her life. In 2002, Brandy announced that she was married to music producer Robert Big Bird Smith, and that the two were expecting a child together. Everything seemed rosy until their separation 1 year later. She then started dating basketball star for the Los Angeles Clippers, Quentin Richardson, and that's when the drama began. Her supposed ex-husband came out, telling in interviews that the marriage was just a facade and they actually never got married. Brandy got pregnant, and they faked their marriage to protect her image. He later left her for the film producer he was dating, and they got married.
Just to go down the aisle just because I'm pregnant, I want to be ready to do that. So let's just say that I'm, married or whatever, which was the wrong thing to do. I don't think I've lied.
Brandy admitted to lying and said that was one of the worst decisions she had ever made. She, however, said that she and Robert share a spiritual union and a bond through their daughter, Sarai. In a statement, she said, "He is not thinking about her, me, or what we had together. He is trying to destroy my reputation while using me and our daughter to get publicity and radio airplay for his artists. I am stunned that he is being so dirty about it." Shortly after this drama, Brandy announced that she was engaged to Richardson. He proposed with an 11-carat, $1 million ring. She even got a tattoo of Richardson's face on her left shoulder. However, this relationship also fumbled, and they ended their engagement in 2005. Well, after this, Brandy took a break from relationships. She also suffered a devastating car accident that left a mother of 2 dead. Although she wasn't found responsible, she still settled with the victim's family for an undisclosed amount. She later got into a few other relationships, most notably with Ryan Press, a movie executive. They got engaged in Hawaii while on a vacation in 2012. While she thought this was finally the one, it ended in heartbreak once again. Should we hope to see Brandy married any soon? Maybe not. In a recent interview on The Real, Brandy said she is not even trying to make any romantic connections, so we may not see her on the dating scene anytime soon. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.